You're recording in 3, 2, and 1.
Why do Star Wars nerds hate this movie so much? I don't get it.
I don't think everybody does. Welcome to episode 160 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 160. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey, you're the Murdery. Welcome to another week, the highs and lows and the ups and downs, the good and the bad and the nerd and the murd. I do wanted to say real quick, upcoming, I don't remember the episodes, but we have some guests coming back. We do have
Yes.
Michael Shanks and his wife Brenda that will be coming back for a couple of episodes that are upcoming. So definitely stay tuned for that. Michael Shanks is, of course, one half of the show Two Geeks and a Microphone, which is a
Yes.
great podcast. If you don't listen to that, you should go out there.
Yes.
They're great. They're enjoyable. They have a ton of episodes out there, and they have some exclusives as well through their Kofi
Kofi. Yeah.
Kofi site, which I'm a Kofi member of their stuff, so I get their exclusives, and it's good stuff. They're a fun couple of guys, and
Hmm.
love when we get Mike on his show, and his wife Brenda will be joining us as well. They've been guests before, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. A couple of goofy. I think 162 and 163.
Awesome. So a couple of episodes from now.
Yeah.
Cool deal. I'm rewatching Battlestar Galactica again, the '04
Oh,
version.
yeah. Are we
I
supposed to be getting a new one?
That's been in works for a while. I haven't seen anything on that in a bit. I believe it was going to be on Peacock, which upsets me because I don't want to subscribe to another thing, and you can't get Peacock free anymore,
No.
which sucks. Um, but yeah, it's supposed to be. I haven't seen anything about it in a while. I'll have to look here in a little bit and see. Um, but yeah, that's such a great show. We covered it in an episode, and you should give it a watch if you've never watched it. It's so
Oh, yeah.
good,
It's amazing.
so good, so good. I
Yeah. It's beyond good. It's at the point it was like the best science fiction on television for a few years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every episode is just brilliant, and it's hardcore.
Yeah.
It doesn't pull any punches,
No, it does not.
for sure. Space is not all light and nice, and
Space sucks.
space does suck, and they definitely go through that. But I don't remember if I said it in the episode. I think I did, but if I didn't, um, not spoiling anything. This is an old show by now, but when they finally reach Earth, just stop watching. Just
Yeah.
stop. Don't watch anymore. Just
I
be
like the stuff after that.
no, just be happy. Be happy they reached Earth and stop. Be happy. So anyway, um, that's all I got. You got anything, or you want to step on over to the nerdy side of the house?
Ah, well, at this point, it's been a while, but Timothy turned 20. So shout
Awesome.
out to Kim. Turned 20. So we went to Cidercade last night. That was a lot of fun.
Cool.
It's like, hey, what do you want for your birthday? Can we just go to Cidercade? It's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Done.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And I kicked their ass in Dance Dance Revolution. Yeah, so let's talk about this because again, there's a lot of Star Wars nerds that don't like this movie, and I don't know why.
And we're
I thought it
talking
was great.
about
Solo, a Star Wars story.
I liked it.
I did too.
It's not great, but it is good.
Well, I
Um,
mean, in comparison to Rogue Rogue One, yeah, but everything in comparison to Rogue One is not as good.
it's definitely better than The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I like Solo's a Star Wars story a little bit better than The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh gosh, yes. Gosh, yes. I enjoyed it. I didn't um I wasn't as much of a fan as the actor who played Han Solo. Um
Alden Erickson.
thank you.
Oh,
But
Um,
he was good.
Aaron Rick.
He had some of the mannerisms
Hmm.
that were okay. Um,
It's
uh,
Han Solo at like 19. That's what it is, and
right,
I
right,
think he
very
pulled that
young.
off.
Yeah. Um, I just like I said, I liked it. I don't understand the hatred that's out there for it, and I don't think there's as much hatred for it as you may think. There's a lot of it, but I don't think there's as much hatred as you may think. But anyway, continue.
It is a 2018 American space western film. Um, and yeah, I'd agree with that assessment.
Yeah,
It's centering on the Star Wars character Han Solo, directed by Ron Howard, produced by Lucasfilms, and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It is the second Star Wars anthology film following Rogue One. Alden Ehrenreich, Ehrenreich. We'll go with that.
sure.
Stars as Solo with Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, Donald Glover, Thandie Newton, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Jonas Suotomo, and Paul Bettany.
Donald Glover is amazing in
Oh,
this.
oh my God, yes.
He is amazing in this and deserves his own spinoff.
Yes, I would love to see a Lando movie
Yes,
with Donald Glover.
yes.
Honestly, I'd like to see it as Billy D. Williams sitting down telling a story to somebody, and then Donald Glover picks it up. That would be perfect. I don't even care what story he tells. But it is the origin story of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian. They join a heist within a criminal underworld 10 years prior to the events of A New Hope. George Lucas began developing a Han Solo prequel in 2012 and commissioned Lawrence Kasdan to write the screenplay. After Lucas sold Lucasfilms to Walt Disney Company in 2012, Kasdan was hired to write Star Wars The Force Awakens, leaving his son Jonathan to complete the solo script. Principal photography began in January 2017 at Pinewood Studios with director Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Both were fired in June of 2017 following creative differences with Lucasfilm, and Howard was hired as their replacement. Solo is one of the most expensive films ever made with a budget of at least $275 million. Now, having said that, it's because they had to shift gears in the middle of it.
Hmm.
They basically rewrote the script when Ron Howard took over and had to reshoot a bunch of scenes. That's why it was expensive.
Well, and I had read somewhere that before Ron Howard took over, the story was crap. I had heard it was very, very bad, and he had to come in and just completely revamp it because whatever it was that they had on in testing
Mhm.
was too awful to go to screen.
Wow. Wow. Is it so that bad, huh?
Yeah, I'd heard it was really, really bad.
Well, I mean, I think you did a good job. I thought the movie was great. Solo was released in North America on May 25th, 2018. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, which praised the cast, particularly Ehrenreich and Glover, visual, score, and action sequences. While some criticized the storyline and screenplay, it became the first Star Wars film to be a box office bomb, only grossing 393.2 million worldwide. Wait a
Right.
minute. How is that a bomb? It cost them 275 million and it made 393.2 million dollars.
Because in the
That
film industry, in order to be deemed profitable, you have to make almost double what you put into it.
okay. Okay, I get that. But it's isn't a bomb a film that loses money? This movie made over $100 million.
I guess it was just considered a box office bomb in comparison to other Star Wars
Okay.
movies,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
just
yeah.
go out there and kill it. This was the first Star Wars movie that I did not see in the theaters. Um, I had read the reviews, and at the time, the reviews were so bad. I was just like, I can't. I'm not going to. And there was the whole, I didn't like the looks of the actor. Again, his name, whatever, I can't pronounce it.
Iron Rick.
Um, I didn't like his overall look. Um, and so I just opted to not see it in the theater, and I was disappointed in that when I finally saw it, because I finally saw it once it hit
Yeah,
um, Disney.
yeah. I want to say, did we see? I think we saw this in the theater. It's pretty good on the big screen. Um, I could tell you when it did hit Disney. I watched it actually a couple of times just to see if I'd missed something.
Hmm.
Um, I thought it was great. Again, it's not Rogue One, but what is? Um, and it also brought in some of that heir to the Empire stuff.
Hmm.
With the Crimson Dawn Syndicate,
Right.
you know, we were all looking forward to that back in the day. They even produced action figures for it. So it's like, oh, we're actually going to get the story now. Um, but on the planet Corellia, orphans Han and Kira escape a local gang. They bribe an Imperial officer with stolen coaxium, a starship fuel for passage on a transport. But Kyra is captured before she can board. Han vows to return for her and joins the Imperial Navy as a flight cadet, being given the surname Solo. Um, that opening sequence on Corellia, um, and how the Empire is starting to oppress people, is pretty key. And you pick that up in the Andor series, which is happening just a little later. And the same
Hmm.
with um, the Obi-Wan series,
Hmm.
how even though, Corellia is ostensibly part of the Empire, Corellia has always been able to do things on its own. Corellia is I don't want to say it's an outer system, because it's not, but it's always had its own way of doing things,
It did,
being
and I mean they had their own um, security force, Corsac,
Mhm.
that were largely embedded with the Empire.
Yeah, yeah. But before that, they were independent, even
Hmm.
though they were members of the Republic.
Right.
And you see how that's starting to change in Solo, a Star Wars story. And I had to go in and look at the timeline to see whether I should do this first or the Obi-Wan series. And apparently this takes place a little before the Obi-Wan series. Not much,
Right.
but a few years before.
Right.
Um, so 3 years later, Han is serving as an infantryman on Mimbam.
Han.
Huh?
Han.
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 Han. It's pronounced Han.
Yeah.
Following his expulsion. Hey, um, Lando calls him Han.
It's Han.
His expulsion from the Imperial Flight Academy for insubordination. He encounters a trio of criminals posing as Imperial soldiers led by Tobias Beckett. Han attempts to blackmail Beckett with letting him join the gang, but Beckett has him arrested and thrown into a pit to be fed to a Wookiee prisoner named Chewbacca. Han understands Wookiee. He speaks it not well, but he understands all of it.
Right.
So Han persuades him to cooperate, or the Wookiee to cooperate, to escape. Beckett, aware of his the usefulness of the Wookiee's strength, rescues and enlists them in the gang to steal a shipment of coaxium on Vandor 1. The plan fails when the Cloud Raiders, a band of space pirates led by uh, Infus Nest, arrives to hijack the shipment. The resulting chaos leads to the destruction of the coaxium and the deaths of Beckett's partner Val and their crewman Rio. Um, Infin's Nest ends up becoming part of the rebellion later on. Originally, uh, the first attempt at an appearance of Han Solo as a child was present during the pre-production of Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, showing an early draft of a young Solo that takes part in the Battle of Kashyyyk. Later, a planned live-action TV series developed by Star Wars creator George Lucas titled Star Wars Underworld would have depicted Han Solo's first meeting with Chewbacca and his winning the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian. In 2012, about 3 weeks before Lucasfilm became a Disney property, Lawrence Kasdan had a meeting with Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy about relaunching the franchise and was presented with 9 film ideas, devised and sketched by Lucas himself, which included the new sequel trilogy and various spin-offs. However, Kasdan wasn't sure if he wanted to make more movies, even though the story about Han Solo was the one that inspired him the most. So Lucas commissioned him to write the screenplay.
Kathleen Kennedy, by the way, is either out or on her way out, and I'm
Yes.
very excited about that.
Really?
I think she's done more harm than good for Star Wars.
Kathleen Kennedy?
Yes.
Well, okay, so she was with Lucasfilms first, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm thinking that's correct. Yeah, she was
Yes.
with Lucasfilms. And then didn't she take over for Lucas's former partner? Oh, what was his name? Basically the voice of Lucasfilms for years and years and years.
I don't remember.
But you know
I,
who I'm talking about, right?
yeah,
Yeah, they had a
yeah,
falling out.
yeah. She's done a lot of harm. I'm glad she's out because you've now got Favreau and who's what's it's in charge now.
Oh,
Uh,
oh my God. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Um, damn it.
uh,
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni. Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
them in charge now, and that makes me happy. I haven't watched any of Acolyte yet,
Oh
um,
my God.
but I can't. I'm letting that one go ahead and drop it all because I want to binge that one.
You would have binged that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. Um,
don't give anything away to me.
oh, I want to
No,
say this so
no,
bad.
no, no. Let it go. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear it. I want to watch it
Okay.
all
Well,
fresh.
okay, wait, you're not gonna get this anyway. The Jedi
No,
are like Psi Corps in
don't do it.
Babylon
Don't do it. I
5.
don't want to hear it. No.
Done.
I didn't hear it, thankfully, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know anything. Not yet.
uh, my favorite is the meme of 2 kids
Really?
playing with Star Wars toys about Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Hmm.
It's 2 kids screaming, playing with Star Wars toys. It's like John Favreau and Dave Filoni in a project meeting for Star Wars, and they're just playing with their toys, yelling.
I haven't seen that.
It's pretty cute. Um, After Lucas sold the company to Disney in 2012, Kasdan was hired to help finish the script for Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and this is where he let his son Jonathan Kasdan in charge of writing Solo. In February 2013, Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed the development of Star Wars standalone films, one written by Lawrence Kasdan and his son. Shortly thereafter, it was reported that Disney was working on a film featuring Solo. Disney CFO J. Russolo described the standalone film as an origin story. In July, Lucasfilms announced that an anthology film focusing on how a young Han Solo became the smuggler, thief, and scoundrel whom Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi first encounter in the cantina in Mos Eisley would be released on May 25th, 2018. Oh, hey, they actually made that date. These films were supposed to be released after The Force Awakens, but the temporary departure of Kasdan led to the first development of the spin-off Rogue One, and the project was to be directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Kathleen Kennedy would serve as producer with Lawrence Kasdan and Jason McGatlin as executive producers. Filming began on January 30th, 2017, again at Pinewood Studios under the working title Star Wars Red Cup. By February 10, the film had spent $54.5 million on production. But you know what? That doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of sets got to be built, a lot of other stuff. Lucasfilms announced the principal photography started on February 20th, 2017. Bradford Young served as the cinematographer for the film. And in May 2017, filming took place in Italy with locations including Tre Simi della Lavorado and Monte Piana in the Dolomites in Veneto to the Fossa Dolomites in Trentino. That's probably most of the mountain stuff when they're raiding the space train. On June 20th, 2017, citing creative differences, Lucasfilms announced the director Lord and Miller had left the project with a new director to be announced soon. It was reported that directors were fired after Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan disagreed with their shooting style. Lord and Miller believed they were hired to make a comedy film, while Lucasfilms was looking for the duo only to add a more comedic touch. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Um, so they thought they were making um Star Wars goofy, basically Star Wars lower decks. And it turns out it's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're just supposed to make it a little more upbeat.
Hmm.
Okay, I get it now. To appease Kasdan, who was unhappy with the scenes not being filmed word for word, Lord and Miller shot several takes exactly as written, then shot a additional take. Used to compromise on certain scenes, such as filming a scene with from fewer angles that Lucasfilms expected, thereby reducing the options available in editing. The duo were also unhappy when Lawrence Kasdan was brought to the London set, feeling he became a shadow director. The decision to remove Lord and Miller was made after a short hiatus in filming taken to review the footage so far. The original film editor, Chris Dickens, was also removed from the film, replaced by Pietro Scalia. During reshoots, Michael K. Williams.
Okay, I'm so sorry you froze up. You said during filming what?
During filming, well, okay, during reshoots, Michael K. Williams was not able to return due to scheduling conflicts, and Paul Bettany would be cast to replace Williams, and the character as a whole was redeveloped. So originally, Michael K. Williams was going to be the big bad. Um, so yeah. So the two guys that were directing, they were basically essentially fired. And it was reported that Ron Howard, who was previously collaborated with Lucas as an actor in American Graffiti and a director in Willow, was a frontrunner to step in as director. Howard had turned down the offer to direct Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace. Joe Johnston and Kasdan were also considered, though in regards to Kasdan, Directors Guild of America rule states that a replacement for a director may not be somebody already involved with the production. 2 days later, it was announced that Howard would take over directing for the remaining 3.5 weeks of scheduled principal photography, as well as scheduled 5 weeks of reshoots. Howard wrote, "I'm beyond grateful to add my voice to the Star Wars universe. I hope to honor the great work already done and help deliver on the promise of Han Solo film." Howard was expected to arrive in London on June 26th to complete filming. During the reshoots, actor Michael K. Williams was unable to return to the production due to a schedule conflict while with filming the Red Sea driving resort, resulting in his part being redeveloped and recast with Paul Bettany. Um, I would have liked to have seen what Michael K. Williams could have done. I really love that guy. So in March 2018, after it was reported that Howard had reshot around 70% of the film, it was announced that Lord and Miller would not challenge for director credit, instead agreed to executive producer credits. The duo did see an early cut of Howard's film and provided him with their feedback. Post-production wrapped on April 22nd, 2018. Um, I don't see the clunkiness of this because usually when you switch horses in the middle of something, you get a clunky film. Like it's
Hmm.
like, oh, oh, I can see where they changed directors here. You know, it's like, oh, the lighting is totally different here than it was there, and it's in the same place.
Right.
Um, I don't get that with this. Couple of things that I did really like about this movie. I like that they showed the Millennium Falcon as new.
Yes.
With the
Yes.
piece on the front that we always couldn't figure out what was supposed to go there.
And see, I never thought that something was supposed to go there. So that was kind of interesting to me to know that something did. that never occurred to me that it was missing something there. I always
I
thought that
always,
was the
yeah,
design.
I always thought that that was what they used to like dock to cargo stuff,
I don't
or
know
for
that I don't
pushing
know that I
cargo
ever
around.
thought about it really.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I love the design of the Falcon, but I did like the way it looked, and you get to see why it's so fucked up. Because
Right.
Han Solo fucks that ship up
Right.
bad. Oh, and Lando was so pissed. But yeah, that's how you go from a nice, beautiful, pristine ship to not is making the Kessel run at 12 parsecs. Um, because you're not supposed to be able to do that because it's highly dangerous because it's surrounded by black holes.
Hmm.
You're supposed to take a specific route through it, but Han figured he could do it without it. And I love that the droid that they had ended up becoming the hyperdrive.
Yes. Yeah, I
Um,
really enjoyed that. I thought that was great.
which explains a lot in the films later on why the hyperdrive was always going out. It's like
Yes.
this can't be that great of a ship if the hyperdrive. No, the hyperdrive's not going out. It's a sentient
Yes.
robot that controls it, and sometimes she doesn't want to do stuff.
Right.
Which is amazing. Um, just I again love this film. I think this film is incredible. Again, it's not necessarily my favorite, but as far as Star Wars movies goes, it's it's really kick ass. Um, I love it. I love the acting. I love the script. I love the story. I loved how Han Solo met Chewbacca
Hmm.
and then tried to speak Wookiee to him, and Chewbacca's just like, "Man, look, I can understand you, and you can understand me. We'll just keep it that way."
Yeah.
Because his Wookiee is terrible.
Yeah. This movie is well worth a watch. Like I said, it's not going to be the best, but it's by and far not the worst either.
No.
I don't think that this movie gets enough of a fair shake. I think it's got a lot of good in it. It's a lot of
Mhm.
fun, especially if you're like us and you like space westerns, you like Firefly, you like the Obi-Wan
Yeah.
series. A good space western to me is great, as long as
Yeah.
it's good. There can be space westerns that aren't very good.
Yes.
I didn't think Cowboys and Aliens was that good.
No, it wasn't that good.
Um, you
Comic was
know,
all right.
which one?
The comic for Cowboys and
Oh,
Aliens is
oh,
all
I
right.
never read the comic,
It was
but
all
this is a
right.
good space western. There's a lot of really good about this movie, and there's a lot of fun for Star Wars fans in this movie.
Yeah.
I would definitely give this one a watch. And if
Oh
you
yeah.
have watched it and hated it, give it a second look.
Yeah. Yeah. Go into it like it's something brand new.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it's not Harrison Ford. It's not supposed to be.
right.
This is Han Solo at what like again at the opening, he's like 17.
He's young. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
17,
I
18,
don't
somewhere
remember
around in
anything.
there. And then it takes place 3 years later where he's 20, 21, 22 at the oldest.
Yeah, maybe.
He's not going to be as sharp as the guy who's been working for the Huts for the last 10 years.
Right.
But yeah, that's about it for Solo, a Star Wars story. Other than if you haven't seen it, check it out. Don't listen to the naysayers. Make up your mind for yourself.
Yep. Next, we'll be doing Obi-Wan.
Yes, Obi-Wan will
Awesome.
be next in the Star Wars
Fantastic.
canon. And I want to say for Star Trek, I think the next thing we're doing is um the series with Pike.
With Pike?
Yeah, the series with
S-
Pike.
Strange New Worlds?
Strange New Worlds. I always want to call it something else.
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. With that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off Medium, Oxygen, Michigan Live, ABC News Tampa Bay, and The Guardian. This was an interesting subject matter that I found. These are cold cases that were solved by the internet.
What?
We've talked about in many episodes. If you see something, say something.
Yes.
That can be done through many means, but one of those is as you're searching the internet, and all of these cases were solved through the use of technology. The internet's revolutionized many aspects of life, including how we solve crimes. With access to large amounts of information, the ability to unite individuals from different parts of the world, it's changed the approach to solving cases, especially those that have gone cold over the years. So these stories are going to explore the disappearances of individuals whose cases were shrouded in mystery, but eventually solved through the efforts of online communities and advancement in digital technology. The first one was known as Lavender Doe.
Lavender Doe.
On October 29th, 2006, in a secluded area near an oil field in Texas, the body of a young woman was found, which started a very long and mysterious investigation. She was later referred to as Lavender Doe due to the area she was found in and the lack of her identity. She was burned in a pile of brush, wearing a purple sweater and purple jeans, which contributed to her nickname. She had $40 in her pocket and had a clean cut look with a perfect set of teeth that suggested a well cared for upbringing, but no one knew her, and there was no reports of missing persons that matched her description. So for years, Lavender Doe's identity remained a mystery, and the details of her death left detectives confused. It was obviously a homicide, but investigators had little information to help them identify the victim, who was small in stature and still had a few baby teeth in her mouth. Forensic artists tried multiple times to reconstruct her face from the severe burns she had suffered, but each attempt brought them no closer to identifying her. The case appeared to hit a dead end at this stage, and there were no clues as to who the girl could be or who could have committed such a cruel act. The case first came to the attention of Kevin Lord, who was a former software developer and t-shirt salesman from Killeen, Texas, who spent his free time online trying to match missing person cases with unidentified victims. But the case took a significant turn in 2018 when a man named Joseph Wayne Burnett, who had been in jail for another crime, claimed to have killed her. Another woman, Felicia Pearson, disappeared after she was last seen with her ex-con boyfriend, Joseph Burnett. Pearson's body was later discovered in a wooded area that Burnett had been known to take victims to in his past. Burnett already had a known connection to the Lavender Doe case, too. His semen had been found inside the victim. And at the time of the murder, Burnett had been questioned but never arrested. He admitted to having sex with a woman that day whose name he didn't know, but told investigators he had an alibi for the time of the murder. Around this same time, the DNA Doe Project, which is, we've talked about them before, they're a nonprofit organization run by crime enthusiasts online. They decided to take on her case. They were able to gather $1,400 for the more sophisticated DNA profile test and discovered that she was of Czech descent and had a cousin living close by. Lavender Doe was then identified as Dana Dodd, a young woman who had disappeared from her family many years prior. Dana Dodd had a difficult life. Her mother had moved out when she was little, and she struggled to find a place to belong. For a time, she lived with with Gad in her early teens, but the relationship hit a rough patch when she got a serious boyfriend at the age of 16. Her half brother, John Dodd, also took her in, but again, the boyfriend created trouble. So she was on her own again, and she decided to get a job with a magazine company that traveled across the country selling subscriptions. While John tried to dissuade her and encourage her to stay in Florida with him, Dodd was 18 years old and wanted to strike out on her own. And even during their last phone call in the summer of 2006, John had tried to encourage his sister to come home, but she refused. According to Lieutenant Eddie Hope, who investigated the case, the magazine sales world likely introduced the teenager to seedy motels in a quote dark world. He said it's just a form of human trafficking. Dot had been trying to sell magazine subscription in Texas the last day of her life when she met Burnett. The revelation of her identity did offer closure to the case that once appeared unsolvable, which highlights the role of online collective efforts and technological advancements in solving cold cases. Next, we have Paulette Jaster. Paulette was a young woman from Davison, Michigan, who vanished in the late 70s and after experiencing a series of setbacks that left her struggling with her mental health. She dropped out of college without any notice and started showing erratic behavior, including quitting her job and telling her family she was scared for her life. Despite these signs, when she disappeared, it left a gap that seemed permanent for her family. And for the next 40 years, Paulette went missing, and her family tried to find her, but only met with
40
failure.
years.
Yeah, they only met with
Wow.
failures and hopelessness. The breakthrough in her case came when Paulette's siblings, who were refusing to give up, turned to the internet. They searched through several social media pages related to missing persons and found a group of people with the same interest in solving cold cases. Through their combined knowledge and efforts, the member of this online community were able to connect the hit and run Jane Doe case of 1980 to Paulette. The link was rather hard to establish since there were not many forensic tools to use at the time of her disappearance and subsequent accidents. However, the persistence of these online detectives combined with new forensic methods finally brought confirmation, and she was finally able to get a name and her family find out what happened.
Nice.
The next is Strongsville Jane Doe. Linda Pagano went missing in the 70s after a heated argument with her stepfather, Byron Claflin, which led to years of pain and confusion for her family. Byron told police she left his apartment on Carnegie Avenue on foot, but was never heard from again. Her whereabouts remained a mystery for decades, with no substantial leads for the police or her family or friends. And the turning point in this search came when Christina Skates, a young genealogist who had a fascination for unsolved cases, utilized online resources and community forums to link a John Doe found in 1975 with Linda. She became intrigued with an unidentified grave, which she found in the cemetery records. This motivated her desire to help, and she used the internet to gather old newspaper clippings and other data related to the Strongsville Jane Doe. She tried to reconstruct what little information was available and posted her filings on Reddit. Christina's post garnered the interest of a group of people who loved to solve puzzles and mysteries as much as she did. She was then able to obtain the original autopsy report and case files, including a photo of the Strongsville Jane Doe's skull. She then contacted a forensics artist who used the photo to create a facial reconstruction. And a few months later, the artist noticed that the new reconstruction looked very similar to the picture of Linda Pagano that had been newly posted on the National Missing and Unidentified Missing Persons System database. The age, skeletal stature, and time of disappearance added up, and all their efforts finally paid off as DNA test was done, and the remains were indeed that of Linda. Next is Grateful Doe. Grateful Doe was the name given to a young man who died in a car accident in 1995, whose real identity could not be determined since he had no identification with him at the time of the accident. For almost 2 decades, the only signs that pointed to his identity were Grateful Dead concert tickets and a love letter found in his possession.
That's why they called him Grateful.
Because of the t-shirt. The case was unsolved until an Australian Redditor with the username Zombie Gray, known as Leila Betts, came across his story. She was inspired by his unknown status and the items found with him, and so she posted his information on the subreddit Unsolved Mysteries, which sparked a renewed interest in the case. The post quickly went viral, which captured the attentions of thousands of internet users worldwide, and this attention turned out to be invaluable. A user by the name of Steve came across the post and knew Grateful Doe as Jason, who was a former roommate that he had in Illinois. Steve described Jason as a young liberal man who was a fan of the Grateful Dead, similar to Grateful Doe. And Steve's tip led to further investigation, and eventually Jason's family was contacted. Jason's mother did not report her son missing for many years because he had a nomadic lifestyle, and it made her hard to know where to start looking. But once this link was established, a DNA test proved that Grateful Doe was indeed Jason Callahan. He was 19 when he was killed in Southern Virginia in 95 in a car crash. His injuries made him unrecognizable, and the body was never claimed. Through Jason's identification, the case that had been unsolved for 20 years was finally closed. His family got to know what had happened to him, and the people who had been following his case on the internet finally gave a sigh of relief. The identification of Grateful Doe's identity is a perfect example of how the internet has helped solve cold cases and how people still want to help strangers, even someone they don't know from the other side of the world. This one is pretty wild. Um, William Earl Molt vanished in 1997, and his seemed to remain a mystery until there was a startling discovery on Google Maps in 2019, which changed everything. Molt was a 40-year-old mortgage broker, and he was reported missing after he left a bar one night and never came home. Around 9:30 p.m. that evening, he had called his girlfriend to tell her he'd be home soon, but it was the last time they ever spoke, and he never made it back. There were initial searches, but there was no evidence of him, and after some time, the case just went cold. And then over 20 years later, in 2019, there was a man who used to live in Molt's neighborhood. He wanted to see his old house on Google Maps. And to his surprise, they noticed what seemed to be a car stuck in the bottom of a pond close to them. So this clue led them to contact the current homeowner, Barry Fay, who used a drone to confirm the presence of the car. Fay called the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, who sent deputies to the scene. The car, which was severely calcified and contained Molt's skeletal remains, was recovered by the police. So this was the closure the family was waiting for. The car had actually been spotted on satellite imagery for years, but no one paid attention to it. It's actually been on Google Earth since 2007.
Oh, wow.
The sheriff's office did tell BBC in 2019 that Molt had probably lost control of his vehicle and driven into the pond, though witnesses said he didn't seem drunk when he left the nightclub.
Wait a minute. 1997?
Mm, wait, which part?
When he disappeared, 1997?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes,
And he was
yes.
a mortgage broker?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some shenanigans going on about that time.
Well, that's true. That's true. It might
And
have
a lot
been.
of stuff it ended up coming to light like 10 years later, but I wonder if maybe he didn't drive it on
Right.
purpose. Yeah, either way, I mean, it's dark in Florida.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the oversight shows how new eyes and unconventional methods can help solve cases that have been cold. 22 years that went by. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this was a short one, but I really found it interesting. The cases that were told really show how important the role of the internet and digital technologies
Mm-hmm.
is in solving cold cases.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
definitely.
these cases, they, it had years of long suffering and diminishing hopes for
Mm-hmm.
families, and they were solved with the help of internet communities and technology progress. Um, this ability to connect the dots across decades and miles, it just shows the power of the internet, not just as a tool of communication, but it can give hope to families.
Yeah.
Um,
Closure.
families that are seeking answers.
Yeah. Closure for
Um,
these people
oh
who are
yeah,
wondering, are they out
absolutely.
there? Are they dead? Where are they? What happened to them?
Yeah. Well, and it's the collaboration of strangers from different parts of the globe, and it demonstrates there's a new kind of digital empathy and
Mm-hmm.
commitment that goes beyond conventional investigative techniques. It
Yes.
it shows no matter how cold a case may seem, there's always help, always hope that
Mm-hmm.
it can be solved, and this is being solved with the power of people and the power of
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Yeah. There's nothing we can't do when we work together
Right. And
as people.
well, in the future of the internet to solve mysteries
Mm-hmm.
in modern society, it continues to increase.
Mm-hmm.
There are groups after groups after groups out there that are looking at these cold cases and are trying to get more information and are trying to dig into what happened or who this is, because we have the Doe project that's out there, the DNA Doe
Hmm.
project, of people that are completely unidentified, and families need this closure. The internet and technology, as we advanced, it's beginning to shed light on long forgotten events and people, because again, these
Yep.
cases have gone cold, and it's the fact of leaving no stone unturned,
Nope.
searching for justice. And, I'll just kind of end that with saying, once again, for our listeners, if you see something, say
Say
something.
something.
Go out there to these sites, help out, because you never know how when you're going to come across that one case where it's like, hey, I know something here. I know
Hey,
something
there's
about
there's
this
been a
person.
car at the bottom of this pond for 20 years.
Right,
I wonder if this is that car.
right, right. Well, or there's a car at the bottom of this pond. Maybe I need to call somebody and say, hey, maybe you need to look at this car that's in the bottom of this pond. There's something
Yeah.
weird here. So
Yeah.
anyway, I found this fascinating. I had been looking for a subject to cover, and I came across an article about this, and I'm like, this is really cool, and I want to cover this. So I thought this was pretty interesting.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. That was really kind of awesome.
You bet. So that'll take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more information about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub. That's where you'll find everything for. You'll find not only our episodes, but you can also find our links to what we talk about, pictures from the subjects we talk about, and you can find the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yes, in this particular episode's YouTube page, there are several scenes from Solo: A Star Wars Story, as well as some behind the scenes making stuff. So you can kind of take a look and see what we're talking about.
Awesome, I appreciate that. You can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, you can certainly purchase merchandise from there. Take a look at our store. That, along with our patrons, you can find the link to our Patreon, where we have patrons that donate to the show. That, along with our merchandise, does help with the costs that are associated with the show. Both our website and our uploads and everything like that do cost money. So you want to help keep us on the air, please do consider donating to that. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the subject matter we're talking about. So, with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.